Hello and welcome to the Sharlayan forum. My name is Chris, and today was supposed to be a Pictomancer video, but so much for that. So instead I wanted to go over the massive flood of information that we got as the media tour embargo lifted yesterday morning. I'm looking at a Reddit thread right now that has sort of a roundup of everything that's super important, at least. So I just kind of wanted to go through this and sort of click on some links and show you guys what's going on. First up on this Reddit thread, we have a list of sort of general coverage. So this is just videos that people have posted that kind of go over just the general ins and outs of the expansion, a general overview of the media tour. The first thing I wanted to click on, though, is definitely this from Sly. Of course, a lot of people know Sly from State of the Realm with Mr. Happy, but he went through and, with some help, went through here and clipped out all of the tooltips from the media tour, which is massive. This is a super helpful thing, especially for people who are looking at, the new job abilities and the new meters and things like that for the first time. This kind of really gives you an idea of what to look at and what we're going to be looking for going into the expansion. It's worth mentioning that potencies here and even interactions between skills or spelling or wording on tooltips is definitely not final. We've seen in the past pretty substantial changes from media tour build to live build, because it's worth mentioning that the media tour build, when the creators get to see this build that they're playing is probably 3 or 4 months old at this point by the time they're playing it. So a lot of this has probably changed as QA has gone through and changed stuff and testing. And, it is a preview. It is certainly not a finished product. But Sly has uploaded this collection, this album of all of these cutout tooltips that are really great to look at. What connects and what combos into other things. And just to sort of give you an idea, if you don't know what you're looking at fully, if it's a job you don't play a lot, you can kind of understand how some of these skills might interact. So it's very helpful. It's really cool to look at. And the job changes are something that I'll talk about a little bit more a little later. We've also gotten to see a lot of information about the Dye channels. There's a couple of people that have made really great videos going over those. Zepla, of course, also Crystal. So something that's really neat is it seems like, and of course the text is in Japanese, so it's a little hard for us Americans to know exactly what it means. And from what I've heard in other videos, even some of the people at the media tour didn't know exactly what it meant. But it seems like this is some sort of system where you can save presets and you can apply the same 2 dyes to all of your pieces of gear at the click of a button. It's not exactly a dye all button, which I think would be a little bit more useful, but it seems like it's a preset saver. And you can see here at the very bottom of the window, there's a little 2 buttons that you can show your dye preset 1 and dye preset 2 on. So it's a cool way to sort of give the player a little bit more flexibility. If there's 2 particular color combinations that you really like, you can just apply them on the fly. So that's a really nice system that I think is going to be met with a lot of cheer. People are really going to enjoy that. We're seeing a lot of sentiment that the graphical overhaul firsthand is absolutely stunning. A lot of people are saying that the videos don't do it justice, which makes sense. Bit rates and compression obviously make everything look a lot worse. So people are saying that in action on the screens at the media tour, it was extremely noticeable. And they're really excited. And some people are even saying they're having a hard time playing the game now because it just looks terrible by comparison. So it's interesting to see that. PreachGaming, of course, got a really nice interview with Yoshi-P where they did confirm that chat bubbles are in the works.
If I can have one little personal question. I asked you at FanFest if we would see chat bubbles in the future. And you said yes.
Yoshi-P said that there is samples already being sent off for testing. So that's something that we can look forward to, not immediately, but probably pretty soon. Mr. Happy got a firm no on Blitzball, so please don't look forward to it. We're seeing a lot of concern about server stability going into the launch of Dawntrail, which I think is probably a reasonable fear to have given how terribly the Endwalker launch went. During that time, we saw a lot of queues, we saw a lot of broken queues, and we saw a lot of people just struggling to even get into the game for days at a time. Recently, we've seen also a really high uptick in DDoS attacks, especially in the North American servers, which have been really disastrous for people losing a lot of information, getting their characters stuck. Yoshi-P is essentially saying that we don't need to worry about that anymore because the reality is that Endwalker's launch was kind of a very weird flash in the pan moment because we were still on full-blown lockdown from the pandemic. As a result, production was really low and getting their hands on physical servers was extremely difficult at the time. So Endwalker's launch was sort of an uphill battle from the very start. Yoshi-P and team have basically said that not only do they have a larger number of servers available physically, but there's also the option that they have these cloud servers that they've been testing now, where they can essentially push a button and turn on a new server, which is something that they just didn't have the ability to do before, which gives them infinitely more flexibility to deal with these issues, and something that I think that will come in handy for them in the long run. It's a wonderful thing to see that they're thinking about this, because if they had another launch like Endwalker, it could turn out to be a little bit troublesome for them in the long run. They've stated, and again in interviews that I've seen, 7.0 is sort of the great reset for combat design, for encounter design. Yoshi-P and team have sort of said that they wanted to focus more on creating a more balanced and more stressful experience in the encounters for 7.0. So this is something that, he's talked about in the past with like hitboxes becoming too large, mechanics becoming a little bit too copy and pasted. He mentioned recently in an interview at the media tour where, they would see that the community didn't like a mechanic and he would just scrap it instantly instead of trying to find a way to make that mechanic work or change it. So I think that they've sort of decided that they're going to dig their feet in and they're going to plant their flag and they're going to say, no, this is how we want to do it. And I think that that's a good thing. So I think that 7.0 is probably going to be full of really good fights. I think that Dawntrail is going to have awesome encounters. I'm really looking forward to the raid tier because of their attitude for this. I'm super excited about it. I think to wrap it up, we're going to be just talking about the job changes. I think that the job changes, as a general statement, I really enjoy. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff happening with the jobs where we're seeing some evolution of the kits without changing things too much. And I think that each job is going to have a really new and interesting way to optimize their gameplay that just wasn't there before. But as a result, most of the job changes feel pretty safe. None of them feel super out there. The Dragoon rework, I think, is looking really good. I like the fact that Dragoon can enter life pretty much instantly with Gears Kogel now. You don't have to build eyes. I do think it's a little strange that the bar, their job gauge now essentially just tracks worm wind thrust and a timer for life. I think that that's sort of a wasted amount of UI space for just those two things. I would not be surprised if in 8.0 they introduced a new gimmick for Dragoon. I know that the meme in the Final Fantasy community is that we're resetting it so that we can build on it again. But I think that that's actually going to be the case here. And I think that Summoner is probably in a similar boat. I like the new 5th part of the combo, Drake's Bane. I think that that's a really good change. But yeah, I think that Dragoon is in a good spot going into Endwalker, or Dawntrail. Wow. I'm excited to play it. I think it'll be really fun, except for Life Surge. That's a horrible skill, and I don't know why it's still in the game. Viper, I'm really excited to play Viper. It looks easier than I thought it would, which is interesting. I think a lot of why Viper looks so easy is just because it's put together really well. The job design team just obviously keeps getting better and better at what they do. And these newer jobs, Reaper and Sage and Viper and Pictomancer, they feel very complete. They feel very full. It's sort of a kit that looks like it was built very intentionally. The older jobs, as they've grown, it seems like they're trying to figure out what to do next. We really saw it with Reaper first. Reaper, even if it's not your style, is an extremely well-designed and complete feeling job at level 90. It feels very intentional. And I think that Viper and Pictomancer are going to feel the same way. And even if they are a little bit simpler than some of the jobs in the game, I think that we'll see a lot of people flock to them just because of this like very coherent feeling kit. Not to mention Viper's just insanely flashy. It looks super fun. It looks really fast. It doesn't have any group utility, which I thought was interesting, but I think that they're positioning it more as a competitor to like Samurai or Dragoon than they are as a competitor to Ninja, even though it shares that gear slot. Which is interesting because they don't have like a mug equivalent. They don't have any sort of healing. They don't have any personal defensive either. So they are now only, them and Dragoon are the only DPS jobs in the game that don't have a defensive ability, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited for Viper. I think it's going to be super fun. The kit looks really fun. Monk looks amazing. I'm really excited for Monk. I have been a long-time Monk fearer. I like Monk, but I've just never understood its rotation well enough to feel like comfortable playing it. But these new changes with the stacking potency increases as opposed to the timers, it makes it a lot more approachable. I think that Monk is going to be more popular than ever in Dawntrail. Its new skills are really fun looking. They're super flashy. I think that the stacking potency meter is really cool. It makes it very clear what you're supposed to do next. And I think that that's going to be a huge benefit for it. So I think Monk is looking really, really good. Samurai, I think is interesting. Right now I'm a Samurai main. So looking at this, I'm apprehensive, but I am also excited in a weird way. I think that attaching Tsubame Gaishi to Meikyo Shisui is not a big deal at all. You're never going to use Tsubame Gaishi outside of your Meikyo window, really, except for in odd minute bursts. You'll do it once. So it's really not a huge deal. Basically, all they're doing is connecting those two cooldowns, so it just makes it less for you to think about. I like the fact that you can no longer Tsubame Gaishi on Higanbana because it was completely useless anyway, so just removing that interaction completely I think is fine. We finally got Shoha consolidation, which is huge. That removes a button from our bar. The new skill Zanshin looks really cool. I like the upgrades to Midari Setsugeka and Tenkagoken with the Tengo skills. The new Third Eye looks really fun. Samurai's looking good. I was a little scared when I first started reading some of the leaks and stuff that were coming out. But I think that the way that they're designing this, it's going to make a lot of sense. I like that Hakaze got an upgrade to Gyufu. It's just a visual upgrade and a potency upgrade, but it's nice to see those base skills kind of get a facelift because we've been looking at those same skills since Stormblood, so not a bad idea to get some new animations in there. Ninja is looking super good. I had a really long conversation with the person who plays Ninja in my static, and we were both super stoked about Ninja changes. I think that putting Hutan as a trait is just a W change. That's a huge change. That's really going to be really good. I think that making Suiton and Hutan essentially AoE and single target versions of the same ability is a really good change. Having them both give this new Shadow Walker buff that lets you use hide skills is really smart. It gives Tenshi Jin some utility in AoE, which is really awesome. Not to mention you get the finisher on Tenshi Jin, which is also AoE, so that's huge. You get the AoE trick attack, which is really nice. The new mug is much more thematic. I like that that's an upgrade at a lower level, so that it's not something we have to deal with at the beginning. We get it right away. So yeah, I think that Ninja's looking really good. I do think that the kunai gauge feels a little tacked on. The fact that it only functions, the only function it has is Aeolian edge buffing is a little stupid. I'd love to see another ability get added to that, but I'm sure that as we move forward, we'll see something added to that, in 8.0. I think that this is a great new system for Ninja, but I want to see more from it. Reaper is just more Reaper. I think that Reaper's looking really good. I really like the executioner skills. I think those are cool. I like the OGCD and the Shroud window. I think that that's going to be a lot of fun to pop in there. The Perfectio additional finisher I think is cool. Moving away from the resource generation buttons and just giving you a free use button. So Plentiful Harvest just gives you a free use of Enshroud as opposed to giving you 50 gauge. I think that the quality of life of removing overcapping is going to be massive. And I think that that's a huge change that should have happened a long time ago, and I'm really happy to see it coming now. Dark Knight looks great. I'm really excited to try Dark Knight a little more. The kit feels pretty much the same, but their new defensive Shadow Vigil is insane. Getting an XCOG on it is crazy. I like the new Delirium combo. There's a lot of goodies in this expansion pack for Final Fantasy XI players. Tor Cleaver, of course, in this case. I like the new Esteem finisher, Disesteem. I think that's a really cool looking ability with the wings that come out. The gap closer change I think is fine. I think it's a little odd that Paladin and Warrior are maintaining their potency in their gap closer, but Gunbreaker and Dark Knight are both losing it. It's a little strange, but I think it's a function more of the burst window than anything. I think that they don't really care about the potency in terms of balance. I think they just care about it in the sense that Gunbreaker and Dark Knight have way too many abilities to cram into their buff windows. And when you add in having to weave in these the gap closers for potency into that, it makes the job feel just like too much. So I think that by removing the potency from those, they essentially de-incentivize that so you can focus more on the skills that actually matter. Warrior, I think, looks really good. I like the fact that it's not changing much. I think that it's just getting more, which I think is a good thing. Warrior's in a really good spot. It's basically unkillable now, and it seems like with the changes to their defensives, they're going to be even more unkillable. The fact that their new Vengeance Damnation gives a regen is insane, especially it's a 400 potency regen, so that's pretty huge. Feller Cleave and Fellist Cleave and Big Bonks, so Warrior's looking great. Paladin, I like the combo change to Atonement. I think that that's a really fun visual thing. I think that Goring Blade coming from Fight or Flight is fine because all that's really doing is communicating that, hey, hit this big button in the window where you're supposed to hit it, please. The AoE upgrade for Requiescat, the new skill, I forget the name of it, is really nice. I think that their new Defensive Guardian is really good. It gives them a big 1000 potency shield. So Paladin is going to be big shields, big defensives, same as it ever was. Gunbreaker looks great. I like the change to Sonic Break coming from No Mercy. I think that that's a really good idea because it essentially forces that interaction that, again, was already considered to be the standard. It seems like their goal with a lot of these changes was to sort of take away this idea of lost optimization and sort of force it into the kit in a way that'll let people optimize in a more interesting way, as opposed to just, oh, well, because I'm in this, I have to hit this during that window. Instead, they just said, well, now you can only hit it during that window, so figure out more interesting ways to optimize. Gunbreaker, of course, gets their new Lionheart combo, which looks awesome. And other than that, it sort of just looks like more Gunbreaker. Their Grand Nebula or Great Nebula looks awesome. I love the fact that it's a thrill where they get max HP and then restore the amount. That's a really cool ability. I love Thrill of Battle, and to see it coming to more tanks I think is really fun. All right, the other rework is Astrologian. So Astro, I think, is in the best state it's ever been in. I know that might be a hot take. I think that this is a perfect balance between the randomness and total chaos of Heavensward and the completely brain dead abilities that we had sort of in Endwalker. I think that this is a really fun combo where each card is doing something a little bit different, but there's not a bunch of RNG where you could just draw the wrong card 5 times in a row and you just have dead stats. I think that this is a really good happy medium. Of course, with a change like this, you're never going to make anyone happy, or everyone happy, I should say. There's going to be people that want as much RNG as possible because whatever, and there's going to be people who think that any RNG is terrible no matter what. I think that this is a really good happy medium where you're getting different stats that you still have to learn and memorize what each card does, but you're not going to be punished by random luck not working out for you. We still have Lord and Lady, and it looks like all the healers are getting these big AoE buttons, which look really awesome for damage. And I think that Astro is going to be a lot of fun. I'll probably actually enjoy playing it for the first time since Heavensward and this expansion, so I'm looking forward to it. Scholar, I have absolutely no idea. I really don't play Scholar. I think it looks good. I think that it looks interesting. I know that a lot of Scholar players are pretty happy. I like the Baneful Impaction, the dot, the AoE dot that they get after chain. I think that that's a really cool interaction. It sort of harkens back to their old abilities. The new Seraphism transformation I think is cool. It seems extremely powerful. I will say that since the can't be stacked with Dissipation, I do foresee a lot of scholars who play in like super high-end parsing environments not using this ability because Dissipation is just so much more powerful in terms of output. But you know, we'll see. I think that for the majority of players and the majority of content, that this new ability is going to be really awesome. And it just seems like Scholar has gotten a nice facelift. I don't have too much to say about it. White Mage looks awesome. The fact that they're getting Medica 3 is really nice. I think that that's a cool upgrade that kind of facelifts that older Medica 2 skill. Presence of Mind granting these new Glare 4 stacks for movement, I think is insane. It also gives you a lot of AoE utility, which is really nice. They get a third stack of Tetra, which is absolutely cracked. And then, of course, they get their Gap Closer, which is a level 40. So I think that this is really cool. I think that White Mage is looking awesome. This is probably going to be the first healer I level just because it seems so exciting. I love White Mage. I think it's a really fun gameplay loop, and the new stuff looks really fun, and the old stuff that's changing I think looks like good changes, so I'm excited. Sage looks really good. I love the fact that as of right now, at least, Sage has 2 dots. They were bringing back sort of an old double dot healer thing that used to exist, and I think that that's a really exciting change to see, especially since one of them requires you to be in point blank range. So healer positioning might become a little bit interesting in Dawntrail, which I think is something that we are kind of lacking right now. So I think that that's a really interesting change and could be fun to optimize. We're getting some buffs from Sage, some upgraded buffs, some upgraded shields. They've got the AoE Cardia, which I think is a cool ability. And yeah, I think Sage is looking really great. I'm excited to see more about it. Black Mage, I know, has been sort of a hot topic right now. It seems like a lot of Black Mage mains are unhappy with the changes that they're seeing, while a lot of the more casual Black Mage enjoyers are really excited to see what's changing. I'm not really a huge Black Mage guy. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but from what I've gathered reading people's threads is that the way that they've changed things kind of forces a certain flow on the job that didn't exist before, where you had the ability to sort of do these non-standard lines where you would, change the way that you would flow through fire and ice phases a little bit differently depending on the mechanics of the fight. Because of the way that this new interaction and some of these new skills are designed and the way that the Umbral Ice MP generation changed, essentially it sort of kills that non-standard line. Again, I don't know all the specifics of that. I'm not really a Black Mage main, but to me, as an outsider who just plays Black Mage very casually, I'm really interested in trying Black Mage more. I think it looks really fun. I like the change of Thunder being an instant cast all the time and coming from flipping stances. The new Flare Star finisher looks really fun. And I think for casual Black Mage players that you'll probably enjoy this version, but for hardcore Black Mage optimizers, I'm not sure. I feel sorry for you, but it seems like a good change to me. I'm not sure. I'm sure that I'm wrong to somebody, and that's okay. And if you're a huge Black Mage fan, leave a comment and let me know. Maybe I can learn a little bit more about it. I think it looks cool, and I'm excited to try it. Pictomancer. Pictomancer looks amazing, to be honest with you. I'm really excited to see more of it. I really am kind of enjoying the spell effects, which is something that I didn't think I would ever say. When they first revealed Pictomancer, I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be terrible. It's such a silly looking thing. It's going to be so at odds with the rest of the game and looks so funny, and it's just going to be totally crushing to look at all the time. But seeing it go through its combos now, I'm actually really excited. I think it looks super fun. It seems like it's going to be a job that's sort of easy to pick up, but extremely optimizable, which is exactly what I enjoy. I like being able to play something at a reasonable level right off the bat, but leaving that room to make myself better, I think is really fun. Pictomancer looks like that to the max. I've heard a couple people saying that the motifs, the canvas paintings, the loop there is not very fun because it's a 3-button loop where you have to paint a motif and then render the motif and then cast the motif. And it seems like the cast times on those are a little long for people's liking. I'm not sure. They could just be Mediator woes. It's hard to say, but we'll see more soon. And just from the looks that we've seen, I think the Pictomancer is looking really fun. They probably have the longest tooltip in the game with their buff. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen, but I'm excited to see more, and I'm excited to get it under my hands and just see what it looks like. Red Mage looks great. I'm super excited for Red Mage and Dawntrail. I think that the changes that they're making to Red Mage are just across the board W's. All the new stuff looks really good. I think that the Emboldened Thorned Finish attack, Vicen Thorns, I think it's called, looks great. Cineration is really cool that you get that as like a follow-up to Manification. I think that the Jolt upgrade looks nice, and that acceleration granting this new Grand Impact skill is really fun. So yeah, I think that Red Mage looks great. And again, I like that they're moving to a free use instead of the mana generation for Manification. I think that that's just an overall good change. Summoner. A lot of people are disappointed with Summoner. They were expecting a lot more from it. I'm sort of in the camp that I'm okay with the changes they're making for Summoner and what they're giving to it. I think that Summoner is designed to be the most approachable job in the game. It's designed to be a job where people who aren't very confident going into content can have a job where it's simple enough to play that they don't have to think too hard and they can focus on what they're doing. And I think that Summoner is flourishing in that respect. People can complain all they want about not having a 10,000 IQ Summoner like we used to have in Heavensward, but the reality is that a lot more people are playing Summoner than ever before. And I think that there's a reason for that. It's a very approachable job that does great damage and it's fun to play. And I think that it isn't changing. And that they're giving that a really great facelift, and the new summon looks really cool. Fizz ranged, I think that Machinist looks great. I love the new OGCDs and the new full metal field attack, which is really, really fun. I love the rocket launcher barrage. It's just a really cool fantasy for Machinist to have. Double drill charge looks cool. And, I think that it's more Machinist. Bard, I think, probably got the biggest W change in that songs no longer have to be targeted at enemies. I think that that's a massive change that's going to make Bard just better to play, period. We get some upgrades to Bloodletter and Rain of Arrows. I like that they're bringing Wide Volley back as a low-level version of Shadow Bite. And making the procs for Refulgent Arrow and Shadow Bite the same. I think that that's a really interesting way to basically blend the AoE and single target kits. And the new Resonant Arrow coming from Barrage I think is fun. So I think that Bard is looking really good. I think that the change to songs is a massive W, and that it's going to be the best to play it's ever been, basically. Dancer, I think, is looking really good. I had a conversation with my Statics Dancer, just talking to him about how things are looking, and it seems like Dancer is going to be the most optimizable job in the game at this point, in my opinion. It's going to be very basic to play it at a standard level. The optimization for Dancer is going to be crazy. It's particularly because of Last Dance, this new ability they're getting from Flourish. It just seems like that's going to fundamentally change the way that their steps work. It looks like Dancer is going to be in a really, really interesting spot where they are going to be able to... The difference between a good dancer and a great dancer is going to become huge in Dawntrail. And I think that that's a good thing. I think that that's really fun. So I'm excited to see more from Dancer, and looking forward to seeing more from the game in total. This is already dragging on a lot longer than I thought it would, but... I just can't believe how much coverage we're seeing from the media tour this time around. I feel like this is the most coverage I've ever seen. Of course, the game is growing, so that makes sense. But it's just awesome to see more coming out of this place. I'm really excited. I think that Dawntrail is going to be a great expansion. I think that a lot of people are just super, super happy that, we're only 3 weeks out from early access, which is crazy to think about. It feels like it just got teased for the first time last week. So I'm really excited to see more, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.